So, John, what is the playbook that you think is different, perhaps, from other stress situations that leaders need to follow right now?
Well, I think that's the right question to ask. I was thinking about it in preparation for today. I've been through 5 major financial crises. I've been through, interestingly enough, 5 healthcare crises and 3 supply chain situations. The basic rules are remarkably similar, but as one of your prior guests said, the current generation of leadership has only watched this from a distance. There are very few of us who've managed through these financial crises and made the mistakes as well as the successes. Rule number 1, don't hide, be very transparent, and know what you know and know what you don't, and don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Secondly, outline very crisply what you're going to do. How much of it was internal inflicted, how much external. This was external. What are your 3, 5, 7 action plans that are going to be able to turn your company, whether you're a small company or a big company, and whether you're a state or a country? The third thing you do is paint the picture for what you'll look like a year from now and 2 years from now. If you're going into this with very good momentum and you execute right, you'll come out of it with very good momentum. In fact, if you do it well, you'll probably gain market share in the process. Then you are very open with all your constituencies, your customers, your employees, your shareholders, your partners, and the media. And then you give them regularly quarterly updates. And you move one time aggressively, whether it's in headcount realignment or key programs. And that's how you deal with it. And it's amazing when you go back and watch the crisis in 1997 with the Asian financial crisis, where we dealt with it quickly. We doubled down at a time that everybody else was pulling out of Asia. 1 year later, we had #1 market share in each location. 2001, we got surprised. Outlined the plan in 51 days and implemented it. Day 52, we started to gain market share. 2008, the Great Recession, we saw it coming. We said it was coming in 2007. During the middle of the Great Recession, we were loaning money to the automotive companies to use our equipment and built trust with them. So what you do is you outline this playbook, you execute well off of it, and it's something I enjoy coaching young companies on, larger companies or other organizations. It's an interesting, repeatable innovation approach.
It takes a lot of discipline to follow the playbook when the opportunities arise. John, I want to dig in on that more in a moment. The headlines from the Hill, though, continue to come at us fast. Let's get to Elon Mui.
Well, Carl, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she still plans to hold a vote today on the Democrats' bill that would provide aid to workers impacted by the coronavirus. Now, this comes despite some very sharp criticism from both Republicans in the House and the Senate, who have called the bill disappointing and a partisan messaging document. Still, Pelosi said that she continues to negotiate with the administration and that she's actually been pretty open to some ideas from the Treasury Secretary.
We're negotiating with Secretary Mnuchin. He had some suggestions, all very reasonable. I think that none of them would prevent us from moving forward with the bill. We just have to, though, in the world that we live in, have language so that we can go to rules, so that we can go to the floor.
Now, Pelosi did say, though, that she hopes that Republicans do not move the goalposts. So for now, the House still stands in recess. Guys, we will let you know if and when that changes. John?
All right, Elon, thank you. And John Chambers, kind of jumping off of what Elon just reported, what is your take on the government response so far? What would you say they need to do to improve it over the next coming days?
Well, I think it follows the playbook for small companies or big companies. They've been very transparent, and I think it's important to become even more transparent. And I'm talking around the world, whether it's Asia or Europe or here. I think they need to outline the 5 things they're going to move, need to share the data. You need to move fast because we're having all these hit us. And this is what's different, John and Carl Morgan, than before. The speed of the change, and governments must work together with business and with their citizens to move at a much faster pace. And then you've got to lead by example. If I were to use an example, and I think you guys might even have some pictures on it, a week and a half ago, I did almost 80% of my meetings physical. I'd have 25 visitors from Comcast outlining with 16 of my startups at my home what we were going to do in terms of innovation together, and it was extremely effective. We had that same meeting 2 days ago. We did it virtually with Verizon. All the people were remote and made it happen. We did our board meetings yesterday with my startups virtually. Last night, we were scheduled to do a meeting in New York with a number of industry analysts, enterprise companies, media people, and we were going to bring in Shake Shack to use innovation and talk about these trends. We ended up in 4 days doing it virtually, used Zoom, and we had a 2-hour meeting last night. We had the milkshakes and the shakes delivered physically to their houses. What did I just do? I outlined how you stay calm during a crisis. I outlined don't get concerned about the move this week or next week. What are we going to look like a year out? What are the 3 to 5 things you got to do differently? And leadership must lead. You walk by example, you tell the stories, you walk people through. I've been through the Zika concern, which ended up not being as big as we thought, and I went to the Olympics down in Brazil. I got bit by the only mosquito I saw. I was in Mexico during the bird flu when it hit, and all of a sudden the government leaders did not show up at the meeting that evening. I knew that was a problem. We actually used telepresence, the first real Cisco video capability in 2006 with President Bush and Governor Schwarzenegger to show what's possible. So leadership now, whether it's at the government, the state, the business level, plan for the future. We'll get through this. You usually have the problems. They usually end up being longer than you think and deeper than they think. So I'm probably thinking 3 to 5 quarters. I have my startups thinking, what do they want to look like at the end of the year? And we're actually going to evolve the budget based on circumstances in front of us.
Yeah, and certainly you've had a lot of time in leadership positions through quite a number of crises over the last couple of decades. John, you mentioned startups. I'm curious how you would assess the health of the startup community more broadly right now, and also the VC dollars that we've seen flowing into it. Do you expect to see a halt or at least some sort of slowdown in that right now? For example, is it changing the way you're investing?
So in the sequence you raised the questions, Morgan, first, as we've discussed in a couple earlier sessions, there are not enough startups going on in the U.S., and they are not across enough states to generate the 25 to 30 million jobs we're going to need in the next decade, because they will be the innovation engine and the job creation engine for this country. So we were already at about half what we needed. In terms of the venture capitalists, I've already talked to many of my friends. They're kind of going to pause here and watch to see where they invest and where they don't. There's plenty of cash in the market, but the problems will be those companies that were marginal before will have a lot of trouble getting funding. And so this is where if a company was, as a startup, only focused on growth and did not have a clear plan to profitability and a clear plan to free cash flow, they'll have trouble raising funds. So one of the messages that I liked out of the president's message last night, for small business, we've got to free up this money. The venture capitalists will fund those that are really in good shape, and they'll probably stick within their portfolio. But I think a little bit of caution is going to occur here. Myself, I gained market share during the downturns. 1997, the Asian financial crisis. As painful as 2001 was for us, and I made mistakes, we made all our changes in 51 days. Day 52, we started gaining market share before our peers even moved. 2008, we saw it coming. We extended credit to the automotive company, as I said before, and we built relationships which lasted for life. So this is when leadership has a chance to really lead. Jack Welch, who I admire greatly, and I was so sorry about his passing, he called me up after 2001, and he always kidded me about just having a good company. He said, you finally have a great company. And I said, Jack, I don't. I'm getting killed by my investors. I've let people down. I had to do layoffs. And he said, no, this was actually your best year. And I said, you're going to be the only one that will ever tell me that. And he was. Shimon Peres said it a different way.